Pretty sure I forgot to do the podcast last week. I apologize. I need to be better about doing the podcast so that I can continue to be listened to by no one. This is the Nerdy Virgin Podcast. My name is Joshua Snyder. I am 42 years old and I have a pineal gland cyst in my brain. Let's talk about it. Probably benign. That's the hope. I'm getting my second MRI July 19th, where all my questions will be answered, probably by more questions. Hopefully it's going to be fine. I'm really freaking out about it as it gets closer, and there is I'm afraid I've hit a wall with ChatGPT because I kept asking ChatGPT the same questions. Well, if the MRI comes back like this, what happens? Or if it comes back like that, what happens? Or today I have this symptom. Do you think that's related to the cyst? And all ChatGPT is saying now is just ask your doctor, man. Ask your doctor. I don't know. You're supposed to be asking me to write an essay so you can cheat in college. That's what I'm good for, man. I'm not Doogie Howser here. But I think I also need to remind myself what I'm using this podcast for, which is I need to be more vulnerable. I need to work on being more vulnerable in this format, and because hopefully the more vulnerable I am, the more money I'll make. That's a worthy reason to be vulnerable, right? That's worthy. That's a just cause. Just Cause was a movie. I can't remember anything about it other than I think it came out in the 90s, and that's all I remember about it. Anyway, it's been a rough 5 years, because in 2019 my cousin committed suicide, and pandemic happened 2020 it's still going in many ways. My mom passed away in 2022. Found out I have this cyst this year. It's just there's a lot happening, and my mom and my cousin, they both suffered from a lot of mental illness. But it was my kind of mental illness. So, like, they were looking back on it, they were the two members of the family that I think I could relate to the most. And I don't mean to throw shade on the other members of the family. They're just, happy. And what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that? I ask you. How am I supposed to communicate with that? So increasingly, I'm feeling isolated and alone, and probably should do something about that at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's better to be around people than to not be around people. But after I'm around people for a certain length of time, I'm like, ugh, people. You know what I mean? Maybe you can relate. I have one more cranberry juice left. I'm going to take a swig of it, if you don't mind. And yes, I know this is supposed to be a comedy podcast. I'm aware. I'm keenly aware. But hey, if The Martian can be considered a comedy movie, then maybe this can be considered a comedy podcast. Maybe it'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and count it. None of the traditional forms of grieving has helped me grieve. That's what I'm coming to. Like with my mom, we scattered her ashes. I scattered her ashes twice. I scattered them in Aspen, Colorado, and then about a year later in Laguna Beach. And after both of those times, I came away with it not feeling, I don't know, the romantic sense of closure that you're supposed to feel. And so now I'm wondering if maybe it's not about closure, it's about learning to accept the new reality in which I live, and in which I maintain the same relationship with all things, that there is still a mother out there. She is just in a different form, and my relationship is different. There's a lot less talking. And the grief itself is the thing. I really should clean my apartment. Sorry, that's dust, which is probably causing my sinuses to flare, which I then think is the result of the cyst. And that's the vicious circle I'm in right now. But the grief itself, is the person. That's what I'm playing with right now. That the grief itself is the person. And without the grief, there is no person. And you can't, I'm not the first one to say this, you can't have the good without the bad, the good times without the bad times. If I never had the relationship with the person, there would not be the positives. And the positives inform the grief. That is why there is grief. So, why try to get rid of the grief? Just let the grief be there. And the grief can be yet another elemental force in my life that's not helping to pay for the rent. And there's a rent increase. There you go. Thanks, grief. Get a job. So maybe that's my thinking is don't try to get rid of it. And I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm just trying to let it guide me. One of the last conversations I had with my mom was I was telling her, I was worried about her, and I was worried what would happen if Dad should die first because she needed full-time care. And I was basically saying, I'm out here doing the comedy thing, and I'm not going to be able to be a nurse for you 24/7. And I feel very guilty that this is the last conversation I have with her. But then she said, I understand. And then she said, wild hearts can't be tamed, which was a quote that she had read from a book. She was always quoting things from a book. Wild hearts can't be tamed. That's one of the last things she said to me. And I don't know, I have trouble regarding myself as a wild heart. I have a severe lactose intolerance. I hate nature. I mean, wild insofar as the suburbs of Burbank is about the limit to how much I like to spend in the wild, and as wild as I like to get. But wild hearts can't be tamed. And I guess I'm continuing to do my thing. And so that's what I'm trying to hold on to. That is what the grief is telling me every day. Wild hearts can't be tamed. So go for it. Pursue your passion. Continue writing jokes about Star Trek Deep Space Nine that are not relevant. So that's what I'm going to do. And there's grief. And there's going to be even more grief. There are going to be people who I care about who I lose. And there will be grief. And then there will be people who I really don't care about who I lose. And, that'll be a rough Wednesday evening. I probably shouldn't be drinking fruit juice. It's all bad for me. Everything is bad for me. Everything is bad for me. I was really on a sugar binge. I'm trying to wean myself off of it. and wean myself off of it. The success story yesterday, I didn't have Pop Tarts, but I did have a ton of Jolly Ranchers. So, I'm easing back. For me, that's diet right there. That is a diet right there. Cut out the Pop Tarts, just Jolly Ranchers, just, only the vegetables, only the fruits and vegetables. Am I skimming over the grief? I probably am. And then the whole thing with my cousin, we didn't even talk that much towards the end. Not because we had a bad relationship or anything. I just kind of was living my life out here. He was living his life over there, and I should have been better about keeping in communication with him. And I should probably use that as a lesson so that I can continue keeping in communication with the people who are still here and looking forward every day or every week to talking with them and feeling a sense of mild aggravation. Because maybe that's what it is. Maybe mild aggravation is what love is. I don't think love lifts us up where we belong. I think love brings us down to where we belong. I think that's more accurate. Let's be accurate with our assessment of love, shall we? Let's be honest with all of our relationships. I don't know, how long do you think this has to be? I went pretty deep on this one. I mean, there are days sometimes where I just kind of stop in the middle of my day and go, oh, Mom's dead. And it hits me. It doesn't even hit me, it's just a realization. She was my ultimate sounding board. I feel she's the only one I could talk to. And I don't have that anymore. And I could talk to her about things that I couldn't talk about with anybody else. And I feel like she's the only one I could feel comfortable boasting about myself. If I felt like I really accomplished something and wanted to celebrate it, she's the only one I could talk to about that, because anyone else, I don't want to come off like I'm bragging. And the ultimate question is anything I'm doing funny if she is no longer here to laugh? Whew. That's a tough one. I remember when she first passed away, there was a part of me that went, why bother doing anything? Because I always valued her opinion over most others. So now I think it means something to the effect of I have to value my own opinion. The question is what does it matter to me? Or I can transfer onto someone else and try to seek their approval for the next 40 years in a probably unhealthy way. What do you think? Write in your thoughts to at Nerdy Virgin. Let me know your thoughts. To continue is the practice. That's what a book of meditation, a meditation book that my mom gave me. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. To continue is the practice. I always come back to that. Just keep doing it. It's not about getting to enlightenment. It's about understanding that the journey to enlightenment is, in and of itself, enlightenment. And right now, it smells like something is burning. Hopefully not in my apartment or near my apartment. And we have to call the fire department. And there is no more apartment. Well, that would help the rent increase, I'll tell you right there. That'll nip that in the bud. If there's no more apartment, we should get a sizable discount on the rent. I think someone's trying to grill. I think that's what might be happening. I think there might be some grilling action going on. All right. Has it been about 15 minutes? I feel good about this. I'm not into doing the whole hour thing. There's enough of this. There's enough of this. Love brings you down. I think that's the theme of this.